Good morning, good afternoon, Richmond. It's 12 noon, and I'm AWOD, and we've got a special show for you planned today. We're calling this the Command-urgency Podcast. It's an emergency podcast because the Washington Commanders are in the NFC title game. Joining me right now from MP on the mic, Michael Phillips. You can hear him from 10 to 12 noon, Monday through Friday. What's up, Michael?
I literally could not sleep Saturday night. I just could not sleep.
Absolutely. So Michael and I, of course, it's a company holiday, MLK Day, but we made sure to take the time to record today for you, Commanders fans out there who are celebrating. And really, I feel great for anybody that's my age and below because we've never seen anything like this before, Michael. The greatest season of my lifetime continues. How did that happen?
It's incredible. I was 6 last time it happened. I don't remember a thing about it. It's phenomenal. It's the kid. It's Jayden Daniels. It's a little bit of magic along the way. It's a gutsy head coach who goes for it on fourth downs. It's a running game that showed up at exactly the right time. It's Jared Goff showing up at the wrong time, turning the ball over. Add it all together. This is a magic carpet ride. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. These do not come around often.
No, absolutely. It's so wild that the team won this game, and yet I'm really not shocked, Michael, because all week long I preached that I thought Washington absolutely had a chance to win this game. They would have to do the little things, right? Be able to run the ball on first down, be able to get off the field on third down, but I didn't expect the defense to step up to the level they did, creating those turnovers. So we've got a few segments planned for today, but let's just start with our initial thoughts. Michael, I'll kick to you.
Yeah, it's about Mikey Sanders still, man. I mean, just Adam Peters, everything he touches turns to gold. That's why, he brings in Lattimore. It's good to remind ourselves that he's human every once in a while. And Lattimore has only been okay, but certainly not a bad signing by any stretch. Everything he's touched has been amazing. I just think about, the classic games that they show and how rarely that you're in a classic moment when it's a classic moment, right? What is that, The Office? Like, I wish you knew you were in the good old days when you were in them. We're in the good old days right now. People are going to be talking about this for decades and decades and decades, and we're living it. We're doing radio on it.
Absolutely. And so, Michael, I know you like to run through film review on your show, and it's a 45-31 victory. I mean, just crazy to think about that they scored 45 points. Jayden Daniels nearly 300 yards passing, 299, 2 touchdowns. B-Rob, I called that. I said the only way they win this game is if B-Rob gets into the end zone. So I think we start right there, Michael. There was some talk about whether or not Brian Robinson should be inactive to give Chris Rodriguez, the fourth quarter man, a shot, but they stuck with their guns, stuck with Robinson. But Cliff Kingsbury was so creative to get Robinson the ball. So I think that was what it was impressive to me was Cliff Kingsbury stuck with B-Rob, but was creative. He knew I couldn't just turn around and hand it off to him, HB dive. I got to be creative and when not give it to him.
This was such a good game by Cliff Kingsbury. I hate to say it. If I were looking for a head coach and I saw that game, man, I'd say get that man on a plane immediately, get him to my city. He was so good, different concepts, mixing it up. Some of what we've seen, some of what we haven't seen, and certainly he was digging back in his bag. We saw some Texas Tech concepts in those fourth downs. There was some air raid, old school Big 12 football concepts there that you saw in the red zone. That got me fired up. They went wide a lot. They went 5 wide. That's a great way to diminish the pass rush because everybody's got to account. He's letting Jayden play a numbers game. The Terry touchdown where Terry just put on the Jets and went. That same thing, right? He's sending everybody wide. He's bunching up double wides. He's counting the numbers. He's seeing if the blitzer's coming. He is making it easy for Jayden to process the game. And by the way, Jayden's really good at processing the game.
Yeah, I mean, it makes it easier for Jayden by running some college concepts there that he's familiar with. But you're right. He was letting Jayden count the numbers, and it is a numbers game, right? They had the advantage. The numbers were on their side, whether they were going to run or throw. It was dictated based off of the numbers that Jayden counted on the defensive side of the ball, and yet this game started with the mistake, with the turnover on downs, and all week long, I said you cannot have that same issue against Tampa Bay and go down against one of the best teams in football, and yet they did. But what has made Jayden Daniels so special, what has made this entire season so special, is this team, but especially Jayden, they respond from their mistakes. They bounce back in ways I've never seen before in my life.
Yeah, this game started with a mistake. They kicked the kickoff out of bounds.
Yeah.
Talk about bad starts to a game. They were aggressive on fourth down. and it paid off, and certainly aided by the takeaways. That was my key to the game. I'll take my turn to brag. I said to win this game, you got to get some takeaways and win that turnover margin. Every team that won the turnover margin this weekend is advancing to the Final Four in the NFL playoffs. It's just crucial. They were there. I thought, Tom Brady is rough to listen to as an announcer. He doesn't bring much to the table. He was right on it though. Jared Goff is down 10. It's in his head all of a sudden. I got to go long. I'm not taking my check down guy. He should have just kept taking his check down guy. He throws the first interception. They're off to the races. Everything's good. That defense showed up in a big time way. We knew they would. Still fun to watch.
Yeah, I thought this game flipped completely when Jared Goff fumbled the ball. So they are driving in this game up 7-3 because Washington had the turnover and downs, gave up the long touchdown drive, and then got their own field goal to make it 7-3. Jared Goff is inside of field goal range. They're most likely going to go up 10-3 in that moment there. He fumbles, and the game flipped. And the second quarter went from tipsy to drunk, with Washington scoring 28 points, the Lions scoring 14, 42 points scored, the most scored in any playoff game in one quarter. The second quarter was insane, Michael.
Winning is fun. Just period, full stop. I covered UVA basketball winning a national title. I promise you it wasn't not fun because their style of basketball is like watching paint dry. Winning's fun. But to win in the most exciting second quarter of a playoff game in NFL playoff history and all that, it just makes it even more fun, makes you appreciate what you got here. And, I go back to that Cincinnati game where I told you, they're not going to be able to stop Cincy. How could they win this game? And they didn't stop Cincy, and they won the game. They did stop Detroit a couple times, but this is a team that's just really comfortable in a shootout environment. They don't blink, and I love what I see from this offense. That whether they're up, they're down, whatever it is, they get out there, they handle their business, and it's paying off right now. I'm curious. Were you out and about among the people? Like I want give me an AWOD reaction. Like, are you calling your dad? What are you doing when you win a divisional playoff game?
Yeah, this is a game that meant so much to me. I was at home with my closest friends watching this game at my house at the AWOD Theater, and just losing my mind. So I actually did want to do a whole segment about this, Michael. I have rituals, that would probably make it very interesting for people that don't know me to watch a game with me. Everybody has always said, you got to stream yourself on Twitch. Now, that's for like Gen Z. That's not for me. All right. But it would be funny, I'm sure. So I start the game. I put a helmet on my head and legit line up like I'm Deron Payne with a hand in the dirt to start the game, to start the kickoff, right? But then I have a routine. Every single third down, your boy stands up. Offense, defense, third down, we stand up. We don't sit down when there's a third down and it's the postseason. We stay standing on fourth down as well. You take a shot or you chug your drink anytime there's a turnover. Hail to the Redskins comes on the Spotify speaker anytime we score a point there. But I always call for certain things, Michael, all right? And everybody that watches me knows the alliterations that I come up with. There's the BPOTG. That is the biggest play of the game. There's the BDOTG, the biggest drive of the game, right? So I've got like all these little things for every little moment that everybody knows when they're watching me. AWOD, this is the BPOTG. You damn right it is. It's fourth down, baby. Stand up. We better score here if we're going to win the game. So it's an experience, I'd say, to watch the game with me. But, I mean, when we're winning, it's a load of fun. It's absolutely amazing. Halftime, we have, during this current win streak, me and my buddy Kevin, every halftime, we have ran to the little market down the street to either re-up in snacks or drinks. Every single halftime, we get there and we get back before the second half kickoff. But, I'm on a routine when I watch games. And so, we're standing up on third down. We're celebrating every little thing. I'm putting my hand in the dirt if I feel like Deron Payne needs a play. I'm calling out things on the defense like I'm the Mike linebacker, doing Bobby Wagner type things. And, I mean, it's just electric. It was unreal. And throughout that entire game, I just had belief. And that's what I wanted to talk about today, Michael, is it was pissing me off, and you know this all week long, that all of the talk nationally was, how is Washington going to stop Detroit? How did Washington score every time they got the freaking ball? That's what we should have been talking about. How did Detroit plan to stop Washington, right? Aaron Glenn's going to get a head coaching job? What? Mistake. New Orleans. Mistake. Right? Control-Alt-Delete that move. You're going to get Ben Johnson a head coaching job? All he wants to do is show off his trick plays. Delete that. I mean, Washington's coaching staff had a better game plan, and they were locked in. They were locked in all week long. Cliff Kingsbury said, no, I'm not doing your interviews. I'm focusing on beating the Detroit Lions. And around the NFL, I felt some type of way about coaches that were taking interviews and not prepping for this game here, like Kellen Moore. And the Eagles almost got cost by that because he wasn't focusing only on the LA Rams. So our coaching staff, we're going to go to game balls next. I'm giving a game ball to all three coaches, Dan Quinn, Adam Peters, and Joe Witt Jr.
Yeah, bad time for the trick play to not work. Jamison Williams throws the interception, right? That's when you know one guy's got it going, one guy doesn't have it going. I'll also add, everybody's waiting for Johnson and Glenn. They're going to take jobs this week. As long as Cliff stays radio silent for another week, I think we got him for another year. I think the timing really works in their favor here. Give me a game ball to Brian Robinson, the guy who said he maybe should have been inactive this week. He shouldn't have been inactive this week. He was a key part of this win. The run game is back. Austin Eckler, game ball. Jayden Daniels, of course, game ball on offense. Honorary game ball to Sam Cosmi, man. I hate to see that for him. He fought through so much. But a real game ball to Trent Scott. I have been dogging on Trent Scott all year long, just like Brian Robinson. Both of them showed up when it mattered. Game balls to all them defensively. You know I'm coming for my guy Jeremy Chin and Frankie Louvu, as I call them the best things that have ever come here from Carolina. It's nice to have things come from Carolina and work out.
I love that. Shout out to Austin Eckler. Game ball to Austin Eckler. Game ball to Zach Ertz. 5 catches, 28 yards. It just felt like he was there in every big moment. And the biggest thing about Zach Ertz, he's dropped the ball a few times this year. 5 targets, 5 catches. Right in the big moment, he didn't have a drop. And you can say that about most of the receivers on the team. They stepped up for this big moment here. But Austin Eckler, I felt like coming into this game, that was where Washington would have the advantage. If Detroit plays man-to-man, he will make the first guy miss, and that just destroys your defensive game plan. 6 carries, 47 yards, 7.8 a pop right there in the air to him 4 times for 41 yards. Once again, a living, breathing, walking first down. Just get the ball into his hands. He was a huge difference maker. And that was also the thing, was that Washington had a 2-horse back. The Lions did not. They got David Montgomery back. He was not as good as Jahmyr Gibbs. And, I even heard people, and maybe it was Hoffman this week, saying it's going to be to Washington's favor the more carries they give to David Montgomery, because that's less times you get to have Jahmyr Gibbs rip off 8-yard runs. And that kind of cost the Lions. That and Ben Johnson completely going away from the game plan. So, Michael, you just gave out your game balls. Let's go through the grades for the coaching staff. And why don't you start with the Detroit side of the ball, man?
Well, yeah, they were themselves. Dan Campbell was himself, and you could just see, like, oh my gosh, my team is melting down at the wrong time. I had thought this Detroit team would be able to handle the adversity, the pressure of being number one, because he's instilled that mentality in them all year. They didn't. And Tom Brady said at one point, like, it's quiet in here. And that's the environment you can't prepare your team for. Not the loud, not the noise. What you can't prepare them for is when 70,000 of your supporters get butt tight all of a second and don't know if they're going to come out of there and they're the 1 seed and they're really, really scared. That's the environment you can't prepare your guys for. And they experienced it and they didn't come out of it. They fought to the finish, man. I mean, I still love Dan Campbell. I'll never give him anything less than a C because I just think he's a good dude. But yeah, Ben Johnson got out coached by Cliff Kingsbury. He is a D for this game. Did not dial it up. His quarterback did not put him in positions to succeed. His quarterback didn't succeed defensively. Aaron Glenn, hard to give him a hard grade when he got 45 points put up on him.
Yeah, Aaron Glenn, I think I'm going to be harder on than I am Ben Johnson, because Ben Johnson, the trick plays worked at times. That Jameson Williams 65-yard touchdown, I was the one freaking out after that play there, and they had another one to Monra. There were some trick plays that worked. Obviously, hindsight's 20/20. You're going to look back and say, why would you ever let one of your wide receivers throw a pass in the playoffs, especially when somebody's not wide open? But Aaron Glenn, I didn't get the game plan. At first, it felt like he was not putting enough pressure on Jayden, and then he put too much pressure on Jayden. There was not really, a medium ground there, right? It was either, black or white. I'm all out blitzing or I'm not, and Jayden identified it. And so you're right. I mean, Cliff Kingsbury deserves a lot of credit, and Cliff Kingsbury was a step ahead of Aaron Glenn. And this season, more times than not, Cliff Kingsbury has been a step ahead of the defense coordinator with his play calling, and part of that's the play design, but also part of that is that it's just so hard to defend a Jayden Daniels. And this guy was 23 of 31, very accurate, 299 yards, and he's credited for 16 carries, 51. Here's something I wanted to say about Jayden's runs. I didn't feel like he was going all out. I felt like he was leaving some juice left in the tank, right? And he didn't need to ever end up using that juice in the fourth quarter, but I think that's what he was thinking. And so, it's like 3.2 yards per pop when he ran. There were several times, right? He ran it 16 times. There were probably 7 times where I thought he could have cut it back inside and try to have a real explosive play or make a guy miss. Instead, he went out of bounds. He avoided the hit. But it was like he was saving something left in the tank in case he needed it. So, he's credited with 3.2 yards per carry. It should have been, it's a bigger picture, more things than that, right? It was like, yeah, he's getting 3 yards a pop, but he's destroying your blitz. And so he's turning a negative play into a positive play. And that was awesome to see over and over and over again.
Yeah, I haven't said Terry McLaurin's name yet. He was great. They force-fed him. That was the best thing Cliff did. He wasn't doing that early in the season. He's doing that now, force-feeding Terry. Cliff's worst games coincide with Jayden's rib injury. I mean, you can look back on this and say there's a team that if Jayden had been healthy for 17 weeks probably wins the NFC East. When we get to the Philly game, I like this quarterback better than the other one, and I think he's healthier than the other one. That's not everything. I like what the Eagles do, but man, that's something.
Yeah, the other thing is Washington's defense, they bent, but they did not break. They did not break. Over and over again, they made Detroit drive the length of the field. Detroit scored 31 points, right? And they're one of the best offenses in football. They're going to get theirs. They got you with the trick pass. They got you Amon-Ra St. Brown through the middle. They did theirs to score their points. But for the most part throughout this game, it was, hey, you're going to have to go 90 yards on us. You're going to have to dink and dunk and carve us up throughout the entire field to score. And they kept getting stops, it felt like, when it mattered most. And it was crucial, right? Like, I just felt like the defense was awesome for Washington. They adjusted, right? It felt like Jahmyr Gibbs was going to go off throughout the entire game. They were able to slow him down a little bit. And there were just enough, tackles for loss, right? Dante Fowler had a big one, tackles for loss. Just 5 for Washington, but it was enough negative plays there to get Detroit off of their spot and to stop their momentum on offense.
Yeah, and obviously an interception's not a tackle for loss, but it's a pretty good play as those things go. Most important touchdown for me, scoring at the end of the second quarter, right? You mentioned that 61-yard run that was so good. They answer back. They push it back to 10 going into halftime. And they getting the ball too. I think that was big.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, there's so many big moments. There's so many big plays because this was a heavyweight fight. Like, don't get it twisted. This was the best game of the weekend. And I don't even think it's that close. Like, the Rams, Eagles ended up being entertaining, but it wasn't like this. 45-31, 70 freaking points were scored, 42 in the second quarter. The Lions had some good plays, but Washington answered them over and over again. The interception return for a touchdown, Quan Martin. Jamison Williams missed the tackle on that. And everyone's making a big deal about Frankie Louvu hitting Jared Goff, who was on the field to play and looked like he was attempting to make a tackle. Knock that man out! I don't care, right? And so the bigger picture to me is not, Frankie Louvu hit Jared Goff. Jamison Williams missed a tackle there and let Quan Martin go for another 30 yards and into the end zone. When this Washington offense, as good as they are, one thing they do kind of struggle on is scoring in the red zone. Sometimes it takes fourth down, and more times than not, it does take fourth down. But they had a chance to tackle him at like the 28-yard line, and Jamison Williams just completely missed. Watch that replay, the Quan Martin interception return for a touchdown. It should not have been a touchdown, but Washington's defensive players wanted it to be a touchdown. They blocked, and Quan Martin broke a few tackles.
Oh, yeah, and Jared Goff was bad before he took the hit, too. That wasn't the reason he was bad. He was bad all game long. Love the heart, the tenacity, the way these guys played, and love how that flips the game. And you're absolutely right. There's buzz around this team. When we get down to New Orleans for Bud Light Big Game Week, this is the team everybody's going to be talking about. This is the team America is talking about right now if you flip on national TV.
Absolutely. Mikey Sainristil against Jamison Williams was going to be, get your popcorn ready throughout this entire game. Jamison Williams got him with that end around, had the good cutback inside, and you saw Sainristil give the extra effort, but it wasn't enough. He gets the big 65-yard touchdown. And then Sainristil responded. And the way he jumped that interception in the end zone was unreal. I've watched a lot of Redskins football. You got to mention like Champ Bailey, Darrell Green, Sean Taylor. The only players I've seen make a play like that before in a Commander's uniform, where the wide receiver had you beat. Now the ball was a little delayed, right? You could tell that James Williams had to slow down slightly, and that's how Sainristil was able to cut in front of it. But that play right there, that is such a winning play. We have not seen that before, except for the likes of Sean Taylor, Darrell Green, Champ Bailey.
I love how teams that do well make phrases sound good. Winning time moment. I'm gonna smile when somebody says winning time moment the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Like, if this team goes 4-13, like we probably mock winning time moment, but winning time moment is forever ingrained in Washington football history, along with this team.
Absolutely. Anybody, anywhere, anytime.
You
That
bet.
was on full display. How about the other one he came up with for this week? Belief, brotherhood, and BU. Could you point to 3 B's that you saw on the field? Belief, brotherhood, and BU, Michael.
Yeah, let's fire up 3 C's for this weekend, I guess. Get up to Philly, get the job done. City of brotherly love. This a divisional game to go to the Super Bowl in year 1 of this regime. Could you possibly ask for anything more than this? It's incredible. This team could go to the Super Bowl again. This team could go to multiple Super Bowls. None of them are going to be as fun as this team. This has just been a true magic carpet ride.
Yeah, the belief was, in my mind, the ability to keep converting on 3rd and 4th down. I thought the one to Terry across the middle was so great. And I'm watching with my friends, like we said, and everyone's questioning the decision. Hey, do you kick a field goal here? Are points more important? And there's just something about Jayden Daniels. When he is the reason you don't convert a 3rd down, go for it on 4th down every time, because he's not going to make the same mistake twice. He made a mistake on 3rd down, and I said, go for it. And they did, and he threw it to McLaurin. Perfect throw. And you just know he's not going to make the mistake. If it's 3rd down and somebody else drops it, maybe don't go for it on 4th down, because Jayden made the right read on 3rd down. But if he's the reason you don't convert on 3rd down, he's not going to be the reason you don't convert on 4th down. Throughout this entire season, he's done that. And, at times it's like on 3rd down, like we said, he keeps a little bit of juice left in the tank and doesn't run for the 1st down, steps out of bounds, but he knows they're going to go for it. And so, like, Michael, we talked about this all week long. There's just something to the fact that the coaching staff has preached we're going for it on 4th down. The players believe we're going for it on 4th down. That is helping them on 3rd down, and I don't think that's not getting talked about enough.
Yeah, and helping them on 2nd down too. You just know, hey, we can incrementally get this thing because the coaches are going to let us go for it. Also, really helps your time of possession, 34 minutes with the ball. That's not as dominant as they've been, but that's a big win against a Detroit Lions team that historically this season has possessed the ball. That's a stat I look at and say 34 minutes time of possession. Yeah, something went well there. It's probably the running game.
Yeah, it's just hard not to believe this team is a team of destiny right now. I've heard from a lot of people comparing them to the Caps or the Nats runs from 5 or 6 years ago. It's hard to compare to me because it's a completely different sport. There's something to it though. The fact that they got in there, maybe didn't belong in, but they got in and then made the most of the opportunity, and everything's clicking at the right time. There's nobody playing better football right now. And Michael, is there a better quarterback from what you saw this weekend playing better than Jayden Daniels?
Oh, wow. Not in the NFC, that's for sure. Josh Allen's pretty good right now. He's carving people up. I really like the Bills to beat the Chiefs this weekend. I think that's I think they are playing inspired football right now. The only thing is with the Chiefs, every once in a while Travis Kelce decides he's good and you can't do anything about it. If he does that against Buffalo, he'll be tough to contain. But man, I love the way Josh Allen's playing. I got this guy number 2 on the list, though. I put him even above my boy Patty Mahomes right now because I think Mahomes, well, obviously I always want the ball in his hands. I don't think he's had a vintage season by any stretch.
Absolutely. I can't wait for more football. AWOD Radio here, joined by Michael Phillips as we do a long extended crosstalk Commanders Emergency podcast after the win over the Lions 45-31. Michael, I know you prepared a segment for this podcast. So I'm going to jump right in here with AWOD's 10 takeaways, all right? And number 1, Michael, you have to start with Jayden Daniels, right? Like, you could talk about this game all you want, the coaching staff, the defense made plays, but Jayden Daniels is doing things right now that we have never seen in Washington. It's better than RG3 2012. It's better than the three quarterbacks that we had winning 3 Super Bowls. I'm sorry. I never saw them play. I know they weren't running for 85 yards every game and throwing for 299, right? Theismann, right? Sue me. You're not doing things where Jayden Daniels was doing. Same with Doug Williams. That's why he's got his arm around Jayden every game saying, I don't know how you're doing this. It's unreal. Takeaway number 1 is with Jayden Daniels, this team can beat anyone. And everybody in the locker room knows with Jayden Daniels, they can beat anyone. That includes the Eagles. That included the Rams, the Lions, the Bucks. I think it includes everybody in the AFC as well. What Jayden Daniels is doing right now is special, and they know they've got one of the ones. One of the Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Tom Brady types that can absolutely win you any ball game. Takeaway number 1, Michael, it's the Jayden Daniels show.
Man, I'll say it. He is the best Commanders quarterback in the Super Bowl era, full stop. If we want to talk about who's the greatest Commanders quarterback ever, it's slinging Sammy Baugh, won 2 championships, wore a freaking leather helmet. Different game, hard to compare. I'm willing to absolutely go there with you. He is the best quarterback. And the teams that won the Super Bowls did it in an era where you didn't need a dominant quarterback. You need a dominant quarterback to win the Super Bowl right now. They've got one.
Yeah, and they had the Hogs, and our offensive line is sketchy. It's just got banged up with Sam Cosmi. But what Jayden's doing with that offensive line, with the skill position players around him, it's unreal. Takeaway number 2, Michael, I felt like during this game, Detroit was nervous. Number 1, they shot and zoomed in on Ben Johnson. Looked like he was shaking, calling plays on the sideline. I thought the way Jared Goff played looked nervous, especially like you pointed to when they got down right in the second half. Instead of taking the checkdowns and just dinking and dunking, he tried to get the big shot, try to get them back into this game too quickly. I mean, that throw to Jameson Williams or even the throw to the tight end was him, taking a shot when there were guys open. I thought Detroit was nervous, and you even heard Dan Campbell after the game crying. This game meant too much to them, right? We played the radio host was saying, we're starving for a Super Bowl. We want to host an NFC title game for the first time ever. Sorry. See you next season. You were too nervous. So that's takeaway number 2. Did you feel like Detroit was nervous?
Yeah, last year Dan Campbell said after the NFC title game loss, he said, I know football. We may not get here again. He knows you run into a hot hand. You can't do anything about a hot hand, right? That was the Nats in their World Series run. That's the commonality there. This is a hot hand right now.
Yep. Takeaway number 3, Washington made the winning plays, the winning time moments happen. How would you describe that to someone who's just tuning in? What is a winning time moment, Michael?
Winning time moment is, hey, we got to have a play right here. And when they need a play, they get a play. They're right more often than not on those. That starts with Terry McLaurin and Zach Ertz. Those are the guys you throw the ball to in those situations, and they bring it home.
Takeaway number 4, Cliff Kingsbury was so creative throughout this entire game, but especially to get the running game going. You talked about this, and I'll let you kind of dive into it more, but in my mind, it was a numbers game, right? 2 guys on one side, 2 guys on the other side. We are going to either throw or run off of this. You cannot guess, because if you guess, we're going to burn you. They guessed run. He threw a screen pass to McLaurin. They took it to the house. They guessed throw. They were able to run it. Chunk plays to B-Rob, chunk plays to Austin Eckler. Your thoughts on the 2x2 and the rest of the creative game plan from Cliff?
And the decisions were so quick, too. It wasn't, let's let the play develop and then make the decision. It's a read right off the snap. Read, linebacker, go. We're running, we're throwing, we're screening, whatever it is we're doing. It's an instant decision, man. That's the best thing Cliff Kingsbury did for his guys this week. Was it's not, you have those choice plays where we're going to let the play develop, and then, whether it's a choice route, an option route, wherever you're sending, Terry's going to make the call, and then you get the ball to where he's going. This was a little bit different variation of that. This was, we are exclusively reading instinctual pre-snap linebacker stuff. Now, Philly's going to look at that. Philly's going to be ready for that this week, but for 1 week, that worked really well.
Washington won this game with their 3rd and 4th down conversions. 3rd down, 4 of 12. Lions, 3 of 9. That's pretty similar, right? But Washington 3 of 4 on 4th down. Now, the Lions did convert their 2 4th down conversion, their 4th down attempts, but it was Cliff's play calls on 3rd and 4th down that were tricky. And Washington had a lot less 3rd and long plays than the Detroit Lions. Takeaway number 6, the turnover battle. Michael, the defense stepped up in a huge way, a way that probably both of us didn't see possible, right? Coming into this game, Lattimore was just completely destroyed by Mike Evans, and Amon-Ra went off. Jameson Williams had a big play, but yet Washington had the game-winning plays, winning time moments with their turnovers.
Everything's so much bigger than we thought, man. You say preseason, this team can make the playoffs. I don't know if this team, they're making the NFC title game. I say before the game, they've got to win the turnover margin. That was key to the game. 5-0? Are you kidding me? 5-0 in the turnover margin. I want to throw one more log on that fire, Adam, because we haven't mentioned penalties yet. These guys have been stung by penalties at key moments, and they just weren't this week. It was really cool.
Yeah, no, they did it the right way, right? I mean, they did it the right way. They knew they didn't want to have penalties disrupt this game. It's like Dan Quinn sat them down in a room. And they said, look, we lost 3 games in a row this season, and a lot of those reasons were because the turnovers, because the offensive line wasn't protecting Jayden, and because of the penalties. And that's something that we can control. They did a great job of that. Takeaway number 7 is that I believe that Amon-Ra St. Brown is overrated, Michael.
Boo, boo. No, he's a good football player. Get out of town with that.
Jared Goff fumbles because he falls down trying to fake out Bobby Wagner. I just like taking a shot at Amon-Ra St. Brown because that was our conversation coming into this game. He played well. McLaurin was great, though. McLaurin had more winning moments.
Yes, he did. McLaurin was Mr. Winning Time. I love watching that guy succeed. That was fantastic.
I felt great about our chances of winning this game after that Jared Goff fumble. That's takeaway number 8. Number 9, Michael, I need more videos. I need more content of the celebrations after the win. How about the picture with everyone wearing shades? What was that about?
I love that. Kevin Durant's down there. Are you kidding me? Like this is so good. This is so fun. To do it in Philly, man, those videos would be off the charts if they could win in Philly.
Yeah, my final takeaway is that it does feel like that this is a team of destiny. To go to Tampa, beat the Bucks, go to Detroit, beat the 1 seed, the Lions. Feels like a team of destiny. Michael, I'll throw it back to you.
We got team of destiny vibes for sure here, Adam. I'll make my point here before we break. This is what if 5 of the last 6 NFC title games have in common? Adam Peters has been the personnel guy for one of the teams.
Wow.
He's now participated in 5 of the last 6 NFC title games. Everybody saw the stat yesterday. I had fun with it. Everybody tried it around. The Cowboys are now the longest drought in football going to the NFC title game. That makes me happy. Honestly, we could just build a whole segment around me saying that for 10 minutes. It makes me that happy. The Cowboys don't have a general manager. They have Jerry Jones, an impulsive owner. For everybody who, look, we all gaslit ourselves for 30 years. This guy will be the guy. This draft pick will be the guy. This trade will be the answer. There is just no substitute in football for solid professional personnel management. To the point that just Josh Harris's best thing was he didn't prioritize the splashy head coaches. He had coaches who would not come interview because they knew they were going to have to answer to Adam Peters, and they wanted a higher level of authority than that. He said, don't get on the plane. Don't come visit me then in my nice DC high rise. I am building around a general manager. He found the right general manager. All Adam Peters does, Adam, is make NFC title games.
Yeah, let Adam Peters cook. I hadn't thought about that, but you're right. I mean, San Francisco, that was a dynasty, right? I mean, for so long, and he deserves credit for being part of that organization. What he's done in Washington year 1, there's a reason everyone's saying he is the GM of the year. I mean, think about the guys that he brought in here that have made impacts. We'll start with the 2 Carolina guys, Jeremy Chin, Frankie Louvu. Right? We had a Carolina coach for years, couldn't find talent to bring here to Washington. Adam Peters could. Bobby Wagner comes over. Austin Eckler comes over. I mean, the draft picks, right? Mikey Sainristil and Jayden Daniels. Those are 2 big reasons you're in the NFC title game. Brandon Coleman, Johnny Newton as well. Luke McCaffrey involved here. It's just so cool the way this team has turned it around in 1 year, Michael.
It's incredible. Everything he does is pushing the right buttons here. The draft has held up so well. The free agency decisions have held up well. The releases have held up well. I mean, just hearing Jahan Dotson's name in the Eagles game and knowing he's not going to make an impact on Sunday. Jahan Dotson's not going to beat this team this week, knowing they've cut the right guys as well to do that in one offseason in the NFL. Very, very savvy.
Jayden Daniels, 22 of 31, 299 yards, 2 touchdowns. We also mentioned the impact on the ground. I think it's even bigger than the yards that he gets credit for, right? Because, everybody starts keying in on him. Austin Eckler had that one big 34-yard run because 2 guys ran with Jayden Daniels. So let's focus in on Jayden. I love the Junkies segment. Graydon Jayden. Jayden Daniels, Jayden Messiah, JD5 here. What was your favorite play of his through the air and maybe on the ground as well. Michael, do you have one off the top of your head? Because I do for the throws.
Yeah, if you don't pick the Diami throw, I'm going to say, what in the world are you going to pick something other than the Diami throw?
I'm going to pick the throw to Diami Brown. Not the one that you're talking about, though.
Not the one I'm talking about. No, that throw was insane.
That throws the throw of the game. I mean, absolutely. But the way he stepped into the crossing route throw to Diami earlier, in which it was a crossing route, and I believe he got 42 yards on it, because I watched the highlights again this morning. That play, look, the throw to Diami you're talking about, I mean, it's unreal. He threw it, and it's like it landed in the breadbasket, right? I mean, you could put a dime right there, 50 yards, and he would have hit it. But the throw that I'm talking about, it was the accuracy, but it was more like the speed, the velocity of that throw. He whipped it in there to Diami, on target, in rhythm, caught it, and kept running for 40 yards. But, of course, your throw was awesome.
I love this kid's arm, man. That's the differentiator, right? Lots of guys can run. Lots of guys can do the other thing. He processes well, and he's got the arm. He can make 100% of the throws. You can ask him to do things that you can't ask a lot of quarterbacks to do, including that. Rear back, throw it, breadbasket to Diami. Diami's got the face mask. Doesn't matter. All you have to do is reach out and catch it. That's how good he missed so few times. He had one crossing right. He's kind of like a little bit behind his dude. Probably could have taken it and ran. I mean, when we're at this level of nitpicking at this stage and the lights are this bright, this kid is special. Enjoy what you've got, Washington.
Absolutely. My favorite run was the play in which Detroit blitzed two guys off the edge, and he just outran them for the first down. I think he got like 8 to 10 yards on it. But it's a numbers game like we talked about, right? He was beating them. Hey, if I see this amount of many people blitzing, I'm going to throw the screen pass. He was beating the blitzes over and over again. But that play is my favorite on the ground because he simply said, well, I might not have an option here, might not have a hot route. I got to just beat them with my legs. And you know what? Cliff Kingsbury deserves a pat on the back here, a round of applause for identifying options for Jayden. When they lost to the Eagles on the road, that was Jayden's worst game of his career. Week 1 against the Bucs, his second worst game of his career. He didn't have options. He didn't know where his out routes were, or as they've been talking about, their man beaters. He didn't know where they were. He identified it every single blitz, it felt like, throughout that entire game. 0 sacks, Michael. 0 sacks in the NFC divisional round on the road, tough environment. My goodness, Jayden was awesome.
I'm just so excited. We're going to be making great radio all week at the Fan, man. I'm so excited to be on this magic carpet ride with everybody. This is so freaking cool.
You're listening to AWOD Radio, joined by Michael Phillips on the Fan.
We are back, special emergency edition of Crosstalk. MP on the mic here, Michael Phillips, 10 to noon every day this week, Tuesday through Friday, getting you ready, and then we'll be out in Philly on Sunday. NFC title game on your home of the Commanders in Richmond, 910 The Fan, now 105.1 FM. Will be with you all week, giving you the most Commanders talk in town. And I am joined by my guy, AWOD Radio, Adam Epstein, who's been waiting for this moment for a really, really long time. And fun to be doing extended crosstalk on a day like this. I was trying to last week place where this would rank in the DC Sports Great Moments pantheon. Recent edition, obviously, because you and I, didn't live through the glory years of the Hogs. I think Ovi lifting the cup is still holding steady at number 1, but we're getting really close to unseating it. I think we might be about 6 days away from unseating it.
Yeah, for me, it's very difficult to compare between sports. I'm a football guy. I've always been a football guy, and I've been a Redskins fan my entire life, bleeding burgundy and gold, and always talk about how my dad was a season ticket holder with myself. He paid for the tickets for 17 years. Don't know why he did it over and over again. I guess he must have enjoyed hanging out with me during the miserable defeats over and over again. But there's no team that I feel like I put as much blood, sweat, and tears in as a Redskins fan. I would say number 2 for me, I'm a Wizards supporter. There was like 6 years in a row I asked for Wizards tickets for my birthday, and that's what we would do.
Yeah.
And then I would go to the Caps and the Nats after those two. And while those two runs were spectacular and the place to be was the city in D.C. during those runs, right? I have vivid memories when the Caps won the Stanley Cup of walking the entire parade. I got to walk the parade while the Junkies sat in a limo and a convertible and, chug beers and hung out with the fans, and I filmed the entire thing. That was like one of the most iconic moments of my life, especially working in journalism there, filming that, and then the Nats parade was everything as well. So I love those moments, but the football team means more to me. And I think the football team means more to more people, right? Like, everybody supported the Caps and the Nats. They were happy, but they didn't really, I don't think they knew who everybody was. Or maybe I could be off on that, but I'm more thinking like my mom, my grandmother, my sister. This is a bigger deal.
No, you got casual fans who are now tuned in and locked in on every move they make. Certainly here in Richmond, the RG3 year had that vibe. VCU making the Final Four is the only thing we've got close to it down here. It's been an incredible run, and everybody's going to be watching Sunday, and this is going to be one of the biggest games in NFC East history. You match two NFC East rivals with a chance to go to the Super Bowl on the line. So here is my question for you, Adam. Here's what I'm going to break down. 4 teams left: Chiefs, Bills, Commanders, and Eagles. Give me your percent chance each of them has to win the Super Bowl.
So I would say 50% for the Kansas City Chiefs. 50.
I agree.
Maybe even 51%. Like, I think it's more likely that the Chiefs win the Super Bowl than any other team wins the Super Bowl. So I will say 51% Chiefs. I will say 29% Bills. All right. So that puts us all the way up to 80% right there. Right, like 80% this year's winner in my mind is going to be an AFC champion, and then we'll go 10% Washington, 10% Philly. I do think it's even. These two teams met twice already. One win for Washington, one win for Philly. I think it's going to be an even matchup. They've obviously got the advantage at running back. I think it's pretty obvious now we've got the advantage at quarterback. Who's got the advantage at wide receiver coming into this game? You'd think it's Philadelphia, but I think Washington's receivers are playing better right now. And then defensively, you'd probably say Philly, but again, Washington's defense might be playing better right now. And then tight end, I think it's a wash, right? Like Zach Ertz versus Dallas Goedert, that's going to be a show. So whoever wins that game has a chance to win the Super Bowl, but, like I just started with, 80% in my mind, this is an AFC season.
I think you and I see this about the same, which is to say both of these are even matchups this weekend. We're in for a really fun Sunday of football, and the AFC team is going to be heavily favored in any combination of Super Bowl matchup that we get. I agree with you that the Chiefs just keep finding a way to do it. I think the Bills are dealing right now for sure. The Eagles, you broke it down very well there. It's the running game for the Eagles. It's the passing game for Washington. Doesn't look like there's snow in the forecast. It's certainly, the weather can be a factor up there. Jayden has not played his best in cold weather games. So you find a way to keep him warm, keep him comfortable. I think that's going to be really important. No snow is going to be nice. They talk about a hostile environment, man. I love it. Nothing rattles this kid. He just keeps rolling. I was going to say 40 for the Chiefs, 40 for the Bills, 10 for the other two. I think it's 2 toss-up games. I think it's 2 really fun games this weekend as well when you break down these matchups. And I think if you're talking about, top to bottom, this is not the deepest roster. But if you're talking about the top, Jayden Daniels, man, he is playing as hot as anybody in the entire National Football League. A quarterback can take you places. I still have fears about the special teams, not Tress Way, obviously, but the kicking game. The miss in the fourth quarter there certainly didn't encourage me any there. But if it's a close game, I love putting the ball in number 5's hands. That's for sure.
Michael, do you ever run the water as a kid for yourself, taking a bath and then overflow it? You ever overflow the bathtub? I did that once because I was trying to make it super hot. It was probably like 11 or 12. I was trying to put some salt in there for my legs. I played some hard basketball earlier, and the water overflowed and it spills everywhere. And at that point, there's no cleaning it up, right? There's no stopping it. It's already overloaded. That's what this season is for Washington. Whether they win or lose to Philadelphia, the bathwater's already spilled, right? It's fallen into the living room. Everybody's going to be excited for this team, for this franchise, for the foreseeable future. Whether or not they get blown out by Philly or go to the Super Bowl and win the whole thing, the cat's out of the bag. Washington is back again. Washington is good at football once again. And there's so much room for optimism here for the future. The future is so bright with your GM, your coach, your quarterback set. And so I think that's what I want to talk about here as we're getting ready for the NFC title game, and it's going to be so much fun. You know, the bathwater's already spilt out, right? There's no putting it back in anymore now. This is going to continue. Right, we're going to go to the Super Bowl in New Orleans and cover the big game, whether or not Washington is in it. And it doesn't matter for this fan base. They're going to be fired up to listen to what we have to say, whether or not they win it, because we're going to be talking about next season and the off season, and we'll be bringing on superstar special guests who are going to come in and say, yeah, Washington is great again. It's a great franchise, and the fan base is back. It's loaded with the roster that they have and the draft picks they have moving forward here. And then, after the Super Bowl, we're going to be fired up talking about the offseason all the way to the draft, through OTAs and training camp into preseason, and all throughout next season as well, even though they have a difficult schedule. This fan base now believes again, and when you believe, anything is possible. And so we talked about this on my show last week, Michael. Jayden Daniels is the focal point. And when you have a focal point like the Patriots dynasty did and the Chiefs dynasty has right now, it makes everybody's job easier. And so, Adam Peters on down, they know they've got to bring in help, but also it's going to be easy because everybody's going to want to play with Jayden. Everybody on defense knows, can I give an extra effort? Because if you get the ball back to Jayden, you have a chance to win. And so, the future is so bright. And so I cannot wait to continue covering this team and talking about this team, because the years of doom and gloom are gone. And that dark cloud over Ashburn, I don't think it's coming back anytime soon.
No, it's a team that's easy to root for, a moment that's easy to root for him in, and a kid that's just super humble leading the way, and you love that. And we'll be down there for Bud Light Big Game Week. People are going to want to talk Commanders right here on the home of the Commanders, and that's thrilling. You know what we're not going to do a lot of next year, Adam?
What?
1 o'clock kickoffs.
Woo!
We're not going to be having a lot of 1 o'clock kickoffs with these boys.
Woo! And you know what? Somebody else brought that up yesterday to me, and you're right. You're absolutely right. 6 primetime games for Aaron Rodgers last year. You got to match that for Jayden. You have to match that if you're the NFL, right? Michael, we might have to go to Real Madrid for Miami versus the Commanders, right? We might have to leave this country to go watch the Commanders play, because they're going to put them everywhere. They're going to display Jayden Daniels for everybody on the planet.
You are correct, sir, and I will follow you to Madrid. I will do it. I will make that sacrifice to make sure that people get the most Commanders coverage in town. Man, it's such a cool time. That was exceptionally well put. Should we do some final thoughts here?
I've got a segment that I planned for you guys as well.
Oh, yes, of course.
This is the emergency podcast crosstalk here at 910 The Fan, now 105.1 FM. Richmond's home for the Commanders. Company holiday today. Michael Phillips and I, we eat, breathe, sleep Commanders. So we wanted to give you guys some content here on a victory Monday. All right, victory Monday. So every Monday after a win, I always like to go through my who, what, when, how, and why Washington won 45-31. The who won this game for Washington? Michael, I'm going to go outside of the box there. I think who won this game for Washington? This game was won by Dan Quinn, the head coach. Like, I really, he had his boys more inspired than the Detroit Lions. He had his team more ready from the jump than the Detroit Lions. And maybe more importantly in this game, I think Dan Quinn had his team more relaxed and confident than the Detroit Lions. The who for this game, I'm going to the top. I think it was Dan Quinn and not that crying loser post-game Dan Campbell. What'd you think of him shedding tears after a 15-win season?
It's who he is. He can't not be who he is. And that's, he'll be back, but it may not be soon. You lose 2 coordinators. That's a tough bounce back year in a really tough division. Give me a little Bobby Wagner. Bobby Wagner hit the right buttons when they were in the losing streak. He was the one who convened the team meeting, gave them the pep talk. He had them believing, not that they were going to snap their losing streak, but that they would be here this week doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. What won this game for Washington? What led to Washington winning 45-31? The what for me, Michael, is Jayden Daniels' ability to beat the blitz. What won Washington this game? Jayden carving up the Lions' blitzes over and over and over again with his legs, with his arm, the adjustments he made. There was one point where I'm 90% sure it was a pass, and he audibled to a run, and it beat the blitz. The play in which two guys followed him, and Austin Eckler went off for 30 yards. Most importantly, though, Detroit blitzed on the screen pass to Terry McLaurin, and they burned him for 65 yards. He split the two. I mean, how many times? I feel like I watch guys split the two, and usually they fumble or they get tackled right away. They couldn't touch Terry McLaurin. And then all my friends that I was watching with, Michael, were obsessed with the fact that finally Terry was not tackled from behind, right? Finally, on an explosive play, he broke past everyone and got the touchdown.
That was a super fun play. I love that one so much, where Terry showed off the speed, kind of the engine, and shook a little bit of a tackle as well. Give me the run game, 182 yards of run game. I did not see that one coming. Didn't see the B-Rob Revival game coming. They ran the ball. They ran it efficiently. The what? You can always say Jayden, but man, he had a great rushing game behind him, and he's going to need that in the cold on Sunday afternoon in Philly.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point, because what won this game, it was the ability to both run and throw to keep Detroit off balanced. I will go to when. When was this game won, right? So, Michael, there's two plays that I think I point to when Washington won this game. Both of them feature NCAA champion, captain at Michigan, Wolverine, back in his hometown, back in Detroit, face off against the Lions. This game was won when Mikey Sainer still had the interception before the half, when he jumped in front of Jameson Williams, and this game was won when Mikey Sainer still flipped the game and intercepted Jameson Williams. That was when I knew Washington won this game.
He was so good, man. He is so good. I love him so much. Give me a little bit of the tight ends room recovering an onside kick, because that was a scary onside kick.
That was the greatest onside kick I've ever seen. Dude, I couldn't do it that good on Madden over and over again.
If they get that, they probably win the game with that momentum right there in that moment. A little bit of a corral on the onside kick. Yeah, that's a big play.
Absolutely. How was this game won? How did Washington win this game 45-31? We've talked about this throughout this pod here. All the little things that Washington did right. First down success to stay out of third and long. That's how they won this game. They limited their penalties. They limited the negative plays, right? No sacks, limited the tackles for loss, limited the drops and the penalties, limited the negative plays. No turnovers. That's how this game was won. And I also think, Michael, I talked about this before the game, and I was hoping that the interior pass rush could be a big advantage. And I'm going to shout out Mitch Tischler. He said, they haven't been a big advantage all season. I don't know why you think they're going to be a big advantage tonight. And he was pointing to Deron Payne, Jonathan Newton, and John Allen. And he's right. Those guys haven't been as impactful as they're making the money to be, right? I mean, those are the highest paid players on the team, but I thought they were. And I think that their production up the middle did a lot to disrupt Jared Goff.
Oh, it was so good. And yeah, that's as good a place to start as any, because yeah, it took a full team effort on defense. Give Joe Witt a game ball as well. He was so good. I'll look back to the offensive side of the ball, and I'll tell you that it was the resilience in the second quarter to just keep answering and answering and answering and answering, because they needed to, because the game could have got out of hand then. Laporta gets the touchdown. It's 14-10. Every Detroit score after that, these guys answered, and that was so crucial.
Yeah, I had three keys to victory. First one was to score on the first possession of the game. They didn't, and I was really worried after that. But they won the turnover battle, and they had two plays of 35 or more yards, and that was what won them this game. I thought was the explosive plays, right? McLaurin had an explosive play. De'Ami Brown had an explosive play. Austin Eckler had an explosive play. Quan Martin created an explosive play. Because Detroit answered with their own explosive plays. Washington has had more explosive in this game. Why did Washington win this game? I think it comes down to, I go back to who won this game for them, Dan Quinn. I'm going to go to his coaching staff. Their coaching staff executed better. Washington executed better than the Detroit Lions. That's why they won this game.
And 5 turnovers to no turnovers. Turnover margin is everything. They made Jared Goff not be at his best in his biggest moment of the season, which is why I feel so good about number 5, because the biggest moments have been his best moments this season. And there's certainly a big one coming up Sunday in Philly. But I love that when the chips are down, this guy rises to the occasion time and time again. If you've got a quarterback, you've always got a chance.
Washington advances to their first NFC title game in 30-plus years with a 45-31 win over the Detroit Lions. I had Neil Greenberg on my show this week. He also went on JP and B-Mitch and Finley. And Neil's got these crazy analytics machines. He's a supercomputer, super geek, right? He came up with the fact that he thought his analytics said there was a chance Washington could win this game by 14-plus points. And me and JP Finley both called him crazy. And yet, the analytics knew that Washington's offense could legit go toe-to-toe with Detroit's. And their defense made just enough plays with the turnovers there. They got a 14-point victory on the road in the NFC title game, Michael. Unfreaking real.
It's incredible. It's a great time. Soak it in. Enjoy it. Enjoy every ounce of it. What a fun time to be a Washington Commanders fan. What a cool thing to say.
And we close out with on to the NFC title game, Washington at Philadelphia. Let's get your first thoughts on this matchup, Michael.
They can win this matchup. They can absolutely win this matchup. Jalen Hurts was hurting. If you contain him, you do half the battle, right? If he's mobile, if he's moving, this is a hard matchup when you throw in Saquon, because Saquon's going to get his. We all see that, right? Like Derrick Henry, he's just a guy who shows up and gets 150 and then works from there. But if you can contain Jalen Hurts, and certainly he's not at his best right now, I think that's hugely advantageous. I worry about the cold. I do. We have not seen a great Jayden Daniels game in the cold yet. I think that's a big factor as well. I don't think the crowd in Philly is a factor at all, though.
I think Washington can win this game. Obviously, it's probably going to come down to turnover battle, red zone efficiency, and which quarterback escapes the pressure and makes the game-winning play. And as we look at Philadelphia, I did want to say one more time, Jayden Daniels escaped the Detroit Lions pressure and made the game-winning play. Winning time moments is what it's going to take for Washington to get to the Super Bowl. And they've got the guys to make the game-winning time plays, right? I mean, De'Ami Brown is not just an average wide receiver 2 anymore. He's stepped up. Jayden's not a rookie quarterback. We've got a 2-horse back, a tight end that's going to be hungry. Zach Ertz might be ready for revenge more than anybody in Philadelphia, right? I mean, he's going to be fired up for this game.
That's a great point. He got that touchdown late in the game in Philly. It meant a lot to him at the time. Nobody's going to be more fired up than him. When you have your 2 stars ready to go, Terry McLaurin, who's been itching for this ever since he was in big games at Ohio State, and Zach Ertz, who's been making big catches and is fired up to be in Philly, that's a great combination.
All right, so Michael and I will be live and local starting tomorrow throughout the rest of the week. Wednesday, first injury report, Michael. Who would you have your eye on there for Washington? Because Philadelphia, you're right. I mean, they're banged up. Jalen Hurts, number 1.
Yeah, probably looking at the O-line. Cosme's out. We know that. I'd like a clean bill of health, and certainly Biotish is a big one. They're a lot better when Biotish plays than when he doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, Zach Ertz looked like he got a pop in the head. I think he did concussion protocol, but he came back, so you feel pretty good about him. And then, I think we're pretty good with corners like Lattimore and Sainristil and Noah I, right? I mean,
Yep.
Noah stepped up. Everybody on the defense stepped up, especially Jeremy Chin. We haven't mentioned him, and he had the game-sealing interception at the end.
Just another Carolina guy doing good things in Washington.
Michael, thank you so much for meeting with me here on a company holiday to do the Command Urgency pod following the win.
There are no holidays when you're in the NFC title game, baby. Let's go. I'm fired up to be in Philly. We're going to do a lot of great content this week. I could not be more excited.
Michael Phillips, MP on the mic. I'm Adam Epstein. Check out AWOD Radio Monday through Friday from 12 to 3 on The Fan.